Milton's Adventure, a Milton story, narrated by Ed Pawncroft. Chapter 5, Trouble in Pukka Paradise. You've got to wake up! The familiar form of TV chef Jamie Oliver gradually came into focus as Milton's eyes blinked open. Dad? Asked Milton groggily. Jamie Oliver pulled Milton upwards so he leaned with his back against what felt like a gnarled tree.
Where am I? Did vampires get me?
No, Milton, cried Jamie irritatedly. You're safe here. I had to pull you through that door.
Milton squinted as his eyes adjusted to the strange amber light that bathed his surroundings. He was slumped on the ground, with Jamie standing over him, cloaked in his usual white chef's attire. Milton saw himself to be lying on a crude straw bed in a small teepee comprised entirely from pine tree branches. All around, as far as the eye could see, were multitudes of trees of the same species.
What's happened? Did I do something wrong?
Jamie exhaled through his nostrils.
Well, you could say that, Milton.
Milton glanced to his hand, which still gripped the chalice tight. He remembered back to what happened at the Red Tower of Arcanway.
You made me spill the brew!
Milton winced in pain suddenly.
Ow, my stomach!
He peered down to his gut, which exhibited a vibrant rug burn from being pulled across Lord Cindrax's extravagant carpeting. Jamie removed a spiky green plant from a satchel around his waist.
Here, eat this. It will make you feel better.
What is it?
Queried Milton, accepting the plant with trembling hands.
It's a yucatonis fruit, Milton. It has remedying medicinal properties. Just get it in ya.
Milton obliged and proceeded to ingest the green thing. His face lit up as the deliciously sweet taste hit his tongue.
Wow! Tastes good!
The fruit's flavour rapidly began to transform in his mouth as he chewed, its pulp releasing a secondary resultant bitterness, much to Milton's disgust.
What the hell?
That's the thing about a yucatonis fruit, Milton. Its taste just keeps changing in your mouth. Better to just swallow it straight away.
Milton heeded Jamie's advice and swallowed the fruit just as it had begun to take on the flavour reminiscent of beef and tomato pot noodle. Jamie helped Milton to his feet and led him out of the teepee.
To be honest, I'm surprised you're not in worse condition. I forgot to tell you, but prolonged usage of space transmutation actually has a number of complicated side effects. But let's not get into that right now.
Alright then. So what is this place?
Asked Milton, staring up at the golden light filtering through the canopy high above. Jamie spoke in a theatrical tone, holding his hands out wide.
Welcome, my son, to the Pukka realm, the second of the legendary 7 areas, penultimate on the great cosmic ladder.
Milton gazed around in awe.
The Pukka realm! I had a feeling it was. Oh, you used to tell me bedtime stories about this place.
Milton peered through the sprawling tree trunks.
It looks like it goes on forever.
Indeed it does, my child. Indeed it does. This is my homeworld, Milton, and yours too. Not many people know this, but humanity actually evolved from the Pukka realm. We came here on an oidorite. From space.
Wow,
gasped Milton. Jamie ushered Milton forwards to walk alongside him.
But that is another story for another time, because right now, I need to have a little bit of a word with you about what you've done.
Oh yeah?
Gulped Milton, foreseeing one of Jamie's infamous scoldings.
So the way you've been killing these demons hasn't really been discreet. What you've done and the way you've done it has already sent ripples across the cosmos.
Milton looked up excitedly.
What, really?
Jamie responded.
Yeah, but not in a good way, Milton. You made a real mess of Rodwild, okay? I had to go clean it up. It took ages, Milton. You did a really messy job and you got a lot of civilians killed. This is not the way we do it here in the Bloodstone Order.
Milton hung his head.
I'm sorry, Dad. Oh, I wasn't thinking.
No, you weren't. That kind of massive damage is going to attract attention from the mighty Krog as well. I wouldn't be surprised if he's already found out and sent one of his prime agents after you. That's why I brought you back here for a little bit to lay low and stay out of trouble.
Jamie noticed Milton's glum mood and put a fat hand on his shoulder.
Look, Milton, it's not all bad though. I'm proud of you for destroying the wheel.
Jamie chuckled.
You were actually meant to save that one for last. It's classified as a level 8 demonic threat. And how you saved that depressing dead place from all those vampires. Word's getting around about that too. A tear trickled down Milton's cheek as he grinned.
Really?
Jamie patted Milton's back. Yes, my boy. And about a chalice. You'll get many more chances to fill that up, so don't worry. Milton wiped his eyes.
In Ormia, the vampire demon Cindrax laughed at me lots for not having any powers. Will I get some soon?
Jamie nodded his head and looked up to the iridescent orange horizon. As you continue to sup from the chalice, you will become more and more at one with the power of the legendary bloodstones. There was once a brave warrior like yourself who wielded it in times of yore. He started out much like you, then gradually as he felled his enemies in battle, he gained otherworldly powers. Milton looked up in amazement.
Really? What could he do?
Jamie scratched his chin. It was a really long time ago, but I think I remember him controlling others with his mind, and I think maybe he moved a mountain. Maybe? I can't remember. The point is, there is much more to that little glass than meets the eye, and one day you will find out about all its secrets. Milton held the chalice to his heart.
I will make it my mission, Father.
Milton and Jamie continued through the woods, following a rough path that snaked through the thin trees. The bird flew out from Milton's backpack to frolic alongside Jamie's own rubber lobster familiar, nicknamed Darcy. Milton gazed around, basking in the sunlight and somehow feeling an immense sense of nostalgia, as if this were where he truly belonged. A hoot came from above, followed by a flurry of wing beats.
What was that?
Cried a startled Milton, unsheathing his blade quickly. Milton, calm down. It's just a Pukka owl. They're everywhere around these parts. Just keep following me for a bit longer, okay? Milton looked around uneasily.
Okay. What kind of beings live here? Well, it's not just you, is it?
Jamie stroked his double chin. Well, let's see. You got myself and the rest of the chefs who've been here for like a couple 1,000 years. Then all the wildlife like that owl and that beetle on the ground. Jamie pointed to a big beetle on the ground. Oh yeah, and the fat lycra bike folk, but they tend to stay away from us civilised beings, content in just being fat and riding around on their bikes. Milton nodded.
All right, gotcha, Dad. So do all the chefs from the Lodestone Lodge live here? Like Nigella and Papa Gennaro and everyone?
Yep, up in the Grand Monastery, which you're going to see in a little bit. Oh, actually, there's Ainsley now over there. Jamie pointed up the path ahead, where none other than Ainsley Harriott approached, driving a wooden wagon pulled by 2 Shetland stallions. Ainsley called out over the sound of the wooden wheels crunching over the pebbled path.
Hello there, Jamie. And young Milton, too.
Ainsley dismounted his horse-drawn carriage and came to embrace both Jamie and Milton. As he did so, Milton took in a heady waft of jerk spice. Evidently, Ainsley had been preparing food not long ago.
What do you think of my new sweet ride? I call it the Ainsley Chariot, grinned Ainsley.
Jamie adjusted his chef hat. Did you really base the entire thing around that pun? That's a bit sad, Ains. Milton remarked at 2 pronged rods on either side of the wagon.
What are those for?
Ainsley looked around.
Oh, those old things. Just a little extra that I'm working on.
Jamie narrowed his eyes and gave Ainsley a disapproving glance. Ainsley responded nervously.
Not any sort of weapon or anything.
Jamie slapped Milton on the back. Right, Milton, I'm going to have to leave you here with Ainsley if that's okay. Milton looked up surprised.
What? Why?
Well, I've got to go have lunch with Jules. She's really cut up about me being away in other dimensions fixing a mess you caused, so I have to go make a meal for her and the kids. We're making poo cake.
Oh, save me some, pleaded Milton.
I'll wrap some up in a napkin if you're good for Uncle Ainsley. Now stay out of trouble and listen to what the chefs tell ya. Milton watched as his father walked off into the trees and produced a small pie from his tunic pocket, removing it from its aluminium sheathing.
What's he doing?
Asked Milton, turning to Ainsley. Ainsley grinned, showing his perfect white teeth.
He's eating a Pukka pie, Milton. It's a great way to get around if there aren't any doors about.
Milton looked back, but Jamie had all but vanished without a trace.
Oh, we hardly got to catch up at all.
Ainsley ushered Milton to climb aboard his chariot.
He'll be back before you know it. Now onwards to the great monastery, the Grand Monastery.
Ainsley tugged at the reins of his stallions and rallied them into a gallop, prompting the old wooden wagon to clatter up the path. They journeyed for what seemed like half a day to the monastery,
But still the sun hung in the same setting position to the west, its golden light filtering through the trees, basking the realm in a constant state of serene calm. Milton brought this up with Ainsley from his seat among the hay bales in the back of the wagon.
Uncle Ainsley, why is it always evening here?
Ainsley turned back, grinning.
Oh, it's always like that. Always beautiful and tranquil here, just as it always has been.
Ainsley's face dropped as he looked off into the trees.
Although, I'm not sure it will always stay that way.
Milton leaned forwards.
What do you mean?
Ainsley looked around as if to see if anyone was listening in.
All right, don't tell your dad that I told you this, because, well, he doesn't want you to know, but there's something evil and bad going on in the Order.
Milton remembered back to the meeting he had eavesdropped on in the Lodestone Lodge.
Is this about Gordon Ramsay?
Ainsley recoiled slightly at the name.
Yes, but keep your voice down. What was it again? Something about Demon Bodiscalia returning. Oh, so Jamie's already told you about that, has he?
Milton nodded, licking his lips.
Well, the thing is, I think it was Gordon who resummoned the Bodiscalia. He's disappeared, you see, and around the same time that a number of ancient Krogian tomes did too. Oh, and the eggs. He just never stopped talking about the eggs. It was eggs this, eggs that. Oh, it just has to be him. Oh, I don't know why no one believes me. Okay, yeah, so what exactly is this evil Bodiscalia doing?
Asked Milton.
Nothing so far,
explained Ainsley, dabbing sweat from his moist forehead.
That's what makes the situation so curious. Oh, it's as if Gordon has some sort of horrible long-term plan that could take years to come into fruition.
Milton frowned.
Well, it doesn't sound very urgent at all, if I'll be honest. I'm sorry, Uncle Ainsley, but I'm going to have to side with my dad on this one. It seems like all these demons going around in other dimensions is a little bit more important.
Ainsley hung his head and returned to driving the horses.
It seems so.
Milton peered through the trees and briefly thought to see some kind of dark shape move between the trunks, but thought nothing of it, becoming immediately distracted by something big coming up on the horizon, an immense wooden structure comprised of 3 tiers, with a great flight of steps leading up the centre. From the top of the grand construction came 3 thatched belfries, each bearing the flag of the Pukka realm, which appeared to depict a red eye with 2 lines above and below.
Presenting the Grand Pukka Monastery, central hub to the Bloodstone Order, announced Ainsley, bringing his chariot to a halt next to a small series of hitching posts. We dismount here and ascend the grand steps to the 2nd layer, where you will be introduced to our order's bookkeeper.
The bird cavorted in the breeze.
At last, Master, we've reached our home. Let's leave this wagon and up and go.
Milton climbed down from the cart and brushed the straw from his leather trousers. Ainsley tied his horses to the posts.
I see you've got your familiar on speaker mode. Do you know you can put them on silent if they get too annoying, right? My little guy's been on mute ever since a little outburst we had on live TV. Isn't that right?
A blue rubber gecko on Ainsley's shoulder lifted its head limply in response. Milton looked over at the bird, which fluttered and danced joyously through the trees.
Yeah, I'll keep that in mind.
Milton and Ainsley began the ascent of the great steps. Milton gazed around in wonderment, marvelling at the chefs running up and down the steps, clutching books and kitchenware and the like.
These are all pupils of the Order, Milton. Maybe someday this will be you, proposed Ainsley. Wow, you really think so? Asked Milton, bewildered. Of course, Milton. You're guaranteed a place. Your father is one of the founding members, after all.
Eventually they came to the 2nd plateau, a sprawling plaza that afforded a great view of the surrounding forest. Ainsley gesticulated around.
This level of the monastery grants access to the Grand Librarium, Astral Observatory, and a demon pen. The demon pen? What's that? Asked Milton quizzically.
Ainsley rubbed his hands together.
Right, so have you ever wondered where all these demons are getting transported to when your familiar zaps them away?
Milton massaged his chin.
Come to think of it, I haven't. Well, they all get put in a great big prison cell sort of thing deep in the monastery. It's brilliant. We'll go and see it later, but now... Oh, look! There's Hugh!
Milton turned to see the approach of celebrity chef Hugh Fearnley-Whittingstall of Channel 4's River Cottage fame. The bespectacled man was clad in flowing white robes that were so long that they dragged behind him on the floor. Marked on his forehead was the same red eye that Milton recognised from the Pukka realm flag up above.
Good afternoon, Ainsley.
Hugh held out a dry hand to Milton.
And young Milton Oliver.
The bearer of the Bloodstone Chalice. I don't believe we've yet met." Milton tried to respond, but was unable to peel his eyes away from the big red eye on Hugh's forehead. Hugh chuckled wryly. "Oh, you're looking at my third eye, aren't you? It's a funny old thing, isn't it? It lets me see things, you see. That little demon list of yours. Without my all-seeing eye, we could not have compiled it. With this eye, I looked into all the different dimensions and planes, and picked out all the demons one by one." "Wow," said Milton. Ainsley cut in.
Hugh here is the oldest bookkeeper. He looks after all the ancient texts of the monastery. Although even with that all-seeing eye, he doesn't seem to know where those Croggian tomes went."
Hugh replied to Ainsley in a measured tone. "Ainsley, please, not in front of the bearer of the Bloodstone Chalice. Besides, we have successfully retrieved and relocated a number of the Quaggian tomes to the vaults in the Jubbly Mountains. All that remains is the missing copy of Happy Days with the Naked Chef."
You mean the copy that houses the ancient phrase, scrambled eggs?
"Don't say it," interrupted Hugh suddenly. "You know what the ancient incantation does? There was a reason why it was hidden away in such an unsuspecting cookery book."
Happy Days with the Naked Chef? Oh, I remember when my dad was writing that book back in '05. You know, he actually used to sit at his laptop naked while he wrote it.
Ainsley and Hugh stared at Milton for a while, before Hugh spoke. "Ainsley, why don't you take Milton to see the demon pen? I'm sure he'd love to see where all his hard work has gone."
"Yes, of course," agreed Ainsley. "We'll be off there now."
Ainsley guided Milton away from the plateau and towards a grand arch that led down a dimly lit spiral staircase.
Hugh's got a bit of a rod up his arse. He won't listen to me about Gordon either. Not even when the books and students keep disappearing from the librarium overnight.
Milton frowned at Ainsley.
"Ains, I think you better listen to the guy with the great big eye on his head. He seemed to know what he was talking about."
Ainsley exhaled as they reached the bottom of the staircase, presently arriving at a barred door which he activated simply by swiping his gecko familiar across a sensor to the left. The door opened out into an immense dungeon-like alcove, which was divided across the middle by a row of great metal bars.
"This is the demon pen, a place of banishment for all things evil in this realm, and, well, others too."
A short, bald man approached from the shadows, whom Milton instantly recognized as sweet-toothed Master Chef Judge Gregg Wallace, clad in a grand suit of chainmail.
"Ainsley, what are you doing here? Oh, I've already told you you can't have any more free samples."
Ainsley shook his head.
"No, Gregg, I'm just here showing Jamie's boy around. You remember Milton?"
Milton reluctantly accepted Gregg's sticky hand.
"Oh, yeah, I remember you when you were just a babe. I was there when you came out."
Gregg released a hearty laugh that made his rotund stomach jiggle.
"Anyway, come see the new demons. Oh, I've just been feeding them, so they'll be near the front."
Gregg led Ainsley and Milton over to the bars of the giant cell.
"Milton's the one who's been slaying the demons, Gregg. He's got a chalice," explained Ainsley. "Oh, no way! So I suppose you're already familiar with Peanut Pete, then?"
Gregg pulled a lever quickly and a floodlight came on abruptly, illuminating the slumped figure of the demon known as Peanut Pete on the floor of the cell, a being that Milton had faced on Dartmoor earlier on in his adventure.
"He's being a difficult one. Doesn't even want to touch his dinner."
Gregg indicated a small pile of nuts scattered on the floor.
"I suppose it'd be considered cannibalism anyway."
Gregg let out another big laugh. Milton watched in stupor as Peanut Pete moved suddenly, as if alerted to his presence. The big peanut man got to his feet shakily and turned to face Milton, his tattered gloves gripping on the bars. Milton noticed an almost ethereal quality to Pete's constitution, as if he was not really there. The broken shell from where Milton had wrenched out his heart remained, white mist emanating from it.
"Bearer of the Bloodstone Chalice, look what you have done to me!"
Peanut Pete spoke in a raspy tone that sent chills down Milton's spine. Another faint voice came from within the cell.
"Miltonus, how could you have killed me so? I was so weak."
Milton saw the thin form of Lord Cindrax drift slowly from the shadows, followed by a now headless skeleton Milton recalled as being the driver of the Wheel of Fortitude. Peanut Pete's arm reached out from between the bars.
"How could you do this to us? We had done no wrong to you."
More silhouetted beings came out from the back of the cell, drifting towards the bars with hands outstretched. These dark figures had taken on an amorphous appearance, and seemed more blackened mist than any living form. Milton stepped back in horror, unable to take his eyes from the hordes of shadowy people that moved closer toward him. Gregg pushed in front suddenly, thrusting an electrically charged rod at the demons.
"Get back in there, you pricks!
spat Gregg. A big grin spread across his face. The shadowy beings moaned and withdrew from the light. The forms that Milton had so easily recognized as his previous adversaries evaporated and became one with the rest of the darkness.
"Yeah, don't listen to any of that," said Gregg, adjusting the tip of the stun baton. "The demons like to mess around with anyone who's willing to listen. I just give them a shock from this and it usually shuts them up."
Milton's face was devoid of all colour.
"They're still alive. I thought I killed them."
Gregg shrugged.
"Hardly. There's not much they can really do at all. You seen the film Ghost? Yeah, they're like ghosts."
Gregg was interrupted as Ainsley's rubber gecko familiar vibrated loudly on Ainsley's shoulder.
"Oh, crap. All right, Milton, we've got to get back up. Hugh's got something to say, apparently."
Ainsley turned to Gregg.
"Thanks, Gregg. Sorry for the disturbance."
Gregg grinned and nodded at Milton.
"Not at all. Nice to see you again, young man. Aye, and keep those demons coming. I love showing them a good time."
Ainsley and Milton came back out onto the plateau, where they were once more greeted by Hugh Fearnley-Whittingstall, this time joined by the lovely Nigella Lawson, wearing one of her legendary figure-hugging dresses. Hugh cleared his throat.
"Right, Ainsley, we're calling council in the Grand Auditorium all about that Bodascalia business."
Ainsley pumped his fist.
"Yes, I knew you'd all come around. Oh, it's time to make Gordon pay for what he's done."
Nigella snorted and fluttered her glorious black eyelashes.
Don't be stupid, Ains. This meeting isn't about Gordon. He's been spotted filming on the set of his new show, Matilda and the Ramsay Bunch.
Hugh continued.
"Since no evidence points towards Gordon summoning the Bodascalia, the perpetrator is still at large. More precautions are to be taken around the monastery, including the relocation of the Bodascalia tree, whose scales were harvested at the same time as the ancient texts were stolen." Milton cut in. "The Bodascalia tree? What's that?"
Hugh turned to Milton, adjusting his glasses and answering studiously.
"The common Bodascalia tree, or Reartea salateus, is a plant-based organism that is considered purely symbiotic. The transferal of the Bodascalian essence to a mobile being requires a fragment of bark, or scale, from the original specimen, which in turn creates a possessed host. This differs from the entirely independent Bodascalia forest demon, which were minions of Krag, thought to have all been wiped out in the Bodascalia Wars."
Ainsley shook his head.
"Untrue. You know too well that Jamie Oliver himself retained the last remaining Bodascalia mask that he hid via an incantation and sealed deep within his own cookbook. Happy days with the naked chef," deduced Milton, snapping his fingers.
Hugh spoke in a measured tone.
"Ainsley, please, such conjecture is irrelevant. What remains is that the tree must be rehoused somewhere where it cannot be found and repeatedly harvested."
At the moment, we are thinking either the frozen forests of Podnonia or on Dartmoor near Lodestone Lodge, added Nigella. The council we are calling shall decide the tree's fate. So come along, Ainsley. The Honourable Gennaro awaits.
Milton perked up suddenly.
"Gennaro? Oh, I haven't seen Papa Gennaro since the road trip around Italy. Can I come? Can I?"
Hugh turned stoically to Milton. "I'm afraid not, bearer of the chalice. You have a demon to slay. Bestowest upon me the list." Milton begrudgingly forked over the tattered list to Hugh as Nigella led Ainsley off towards the entrance to the auditorium. Ainsley offered a small wave to Milton as Hugh inspected the list.
You haven't been crossing them off as you go along. Right, let's see. You've done Peanut Peter and the Vampire King. I'd have thought you'd done Paul Pork by now."
Hugh furrowed his bushy brow.
"You've slain the Wheel of Fortitude? You must have received some kind of assistance defeating it this early. It was so far up the list for a reason." "I like to take challenges head on," responded Milton. "What's my next target? Something big, I hope. Maybe I could take a crack at that Catharsis the Incinerator guy."
Hugh handed back the list, which had been modified, encircling the name at the very top of the list.
"Your next target is number 1, an Oblin chieftain known colloquially as Fuckmouth."
Milton scratched his head.
A what now?" "An Oblin, a squat indigenous people found in the deepest reaches of the Pukka realm forest. During the reign of Krag, they fell into his command. Being simple creatures of very little intellect, they very quickly became his ground force. But now, with Krag's influence being what it is, the majority of the Oblin population has fallen back into mindless savagery. A small tribe of them exists out in the uncharted woods beyond Runtun Rock." "But that doesn't sound like a threat at all. I've slain the Wheel of Fortitude. Why can't you send a squire or something to get rid of these little orc things?"
Hugh wagged his finger.
"Do not underestimate the power of an Oblin. This chieftain specifically is no pushover. Why else would he be considered one of the frightful 55? He can't be in much of a danger if my dad never told me about an Oblin before." "Your father did not tell you a lot of things. Now, before you leave, you must know that if anything goes wrong, you are to flee to the Pukka Sanctum." Milton blinked. "The Pukka Sanctum? What's that?"
It is a sacred area atop an ancient hill in the Pukka realm, which will protect you from anything malevolent. It is always nearby and never too far. It will show itself only when you need it most. Now, I must leave for the council. Take this and return here when the task is complete. Hugh handed Milton a small Pukka pie, sheathed in its cosy aluminium housing.
It's still warm,
said Milton, delighted at the pie's pleasing temperature. Indeed it is. Consume the pie when you have defeated the demon. Steak flavour will always take you back here, while other flavours may take you elsewhere. Bearer of the Bloodstone Chalice, may your quest be bountiful and your journey painless. Go now, and remember that I am always watching. Hugh bowed, arranging his hands into a circle, likely to represent the eye of the order. Milton nodded and turned on a dime, fleeting down the steep steps of the monastery and into the grand forest before him. Milton hacked away at the dense undergrowth with his bayonet. He had been journeying for what must have been half a day, though the amber sun hung in its fixed position on the horizon. Tired, sweaty, and hungry, he ploughed on. He had been subsiding solely off of foraged Yakatonis fruits, each affording a colourful variety of flavours, most of which had been unpalatable, bar one which took on the texture of sand mixed with the taste of Milton's favourite boiled sweet. He had also been lucky enough to swipe a cask of water from a trading outpost built into the base of the monastery while no one was looking, which was now all but empty.
Bird, I'm so thirsty. How much longer do I have to go?
The bird fluttered in front.
The camp's not far from here, I'm sure. Just keep going, don't be a bore.
Milton glared sweatily at the bird.
Hey, shut up, bird! Don't make me put you on silent mode!
As Milton accosted the bird, he suddenly noticed a quick movement amongst the trees a few metres off.
What was that?
Cried Milton, wide-eyed and brandishing his dagger. A dark shape darted quickly betwixt the trunks of the trees.
Who's there?
Yelled Milton, his mind racing. Perhaps this was one of the fat lycra bike folk Jamie had mentioned, but Milton saw no sign of a bicycle. Could it be an Oblin? Or maybe even the Bodescalia? Milton shuddered as the thought occurred to him. Not wishing to wait around to get to know the shadowy being, Milton bolted into the thicket, following the bird which flew in front. After what seemed like a lifetime of trekking through the dense pines, Milton reached a monumental rock formation that jutted through the tree layer and upwards towards the sky. This was evidently the landmark Hugh Fearnley-Whittingstall had referred to as Run-Tun Rock. He scaled it hastily to afford himself a view of the lay of the land. Just beyond it was a small clearing, with multiple crude hide-skin teepees and a bonfire producing a column of smoke. Milton descended the rock and engaged stealth mode, his dark leather attire allowing him to blend in seamlessly under the darkness of the trees. From atop the rock, Milton had not been able to make out any Oblins, but then again, he had no indication of what an Oblin really looked like. Following the spiral of smoke up above the canopy, Milton ventured forth towards the camp. He soon came to a felled log, which he crouched behind, allowing him to inspect the camp unseen. The fire smouldered away in the centre of the tents, over which roasted the carcass of a Pukka owl on a branch-fashioned spit. Despite this, there was no sign of any life. Milton whispered to the bird, puzzled.
Where are these Oblin guys? I can't see them at all. I bet the chefs just made them up to get me out of the way.
The bird replied,
Master Milton, that's not true. The goblin tribesmen have outsmarted you.
What?
asked Milton, startled. But before he could consider what the bird had said, a weighty force came down upon his head, knocking him out promptly. Milton awoke to the smell of char-grilled meat.
Cool. Throw another shrimp on the barbie, Dad.
Milton licked his lips and opened his eyes slowly. A grotesque face slowly came into focus in front of him. At first it appeared that the face was upside down, but Milton came to the slow and shocking realization that he was in fact tied lengthwise to the spit and being rotated, owing to the strong barbecue aroma, which he came to realize was his own flesh.
Oh, fuck!
He screamed, attempting to unbind himself from the twine rope that enwrapped him.
Talk not!
Grunted the ugly face in a guttural, rudimentary speech pattern, almost indicative of an archetypal caveman or some other Neolithic brute. Milton's eyes adjusted to the creature, which was stout, naked, and hunched, its skin a pallid grey, and its jutting jaw boasting 2 tusk-like teeth. This was no doubt an Oblin. Milton was quickly issued another whack to his person.
What the fuck? What are you doing? Cried Milton.
You trespass on sacred rock! You become eaten now!
Barked the Oblin. Milton looked round to see a gathering of more Oblins of various sizes and presumed genders, all grey and all naked. They cheered and laughed at this, some throwing small rocks and the like at Milton.
Stop it, you disgusting creatures! I'm the bearer of the chalice! I'll have my way with you!
Have we know anyone?
Laughed the closest Oblin, rotating Milton on the spit. Milton winced as he felt his flesh welt and crisp up over the flames. Thankfully, the amount of yucatonis fruit he had eaten had built up an immense pain tolerance, and the flesh was healing just as soon as it was being burnt.
I'm going to beat you all into the ground, threatened Milton. Bird, do something!
The bird spoke from a much smaller secondary spit to Milton's left, manned by an overweight child Oblin.
Master Milton, I cannot! The Oblins have tied me with a knot!
You're useless!
Cried Milton in anguish, a considerable amount of smoke pouring into his nostrils.
Green fly help no! Chief eat now!
The Oblin that manned the spit sounded a miniature war horn, producing a noise akin to a wet bowel movement. From the farthest tent ambled the squattest Oblin yet, cloaked in a hide cape, and sporting a large wooden mask. The elderly male Oblin hobbled forth, wielding what appeared to be some kind of primitive pepper grinder. The chief's mask depicted 6 angry eyes, and was adorned with the brown plumage of the Pukka owl. Several painted arrows indicated downward to the mouth area of the mask, which opened into a large hole, giving access to the chieftain's grinning maw.
Chief Fuckmouth eat first,
announced the nearest Oblin. Milton writhed as the disgusting masked goon approached.
No, get away! I'll not be eaten by you!
2 more Oblins lifted Milton from the spit, apparently deeming him sufficiently cooked. Milton watched in horror as an Oblin with no eyes loomed over him, holding none other than Milton's very own bottle of Flying Goose extra garlic sriracha sauce, pilfered from his bag.
No, not my sriracha sauce. That's for spicing up my meals, not me!
Milton rolled around on the floor as he was doused generously in the red goo.
Stop rolling,
ordered the blind Oblin.
Never! Milton won't be eaten on this day!
Milton barreled himself into the spit, which toppled and crushed the smaller spit, freeing the bird, which soared from its confinements.
The bird once more is free to fly! Now the Oblins will burn and die!
The bird shot a jet of white lightning at the campfire, causing it to ignite tenfold, catching all nearby grass aflame. The Oblin tribesmen screamed in agony as they were caught alight. Milton used this distraction to struggle free from his weakened bonds and clamber to his feet, suffering only 3rd-degree burns. Mayhem ensued around. Many of the Oblins were too simple-minded to grasp the concept that the fire was the source of the intense heat, and so continually ran into it, setting fire to themselves, and in turn the tents and surrounding trees. Milton scrambled towards the chieftain's tent at the edge of the encampment, which he could sense contained the bloodstone chalice. Sure enough, his Attack on Titan backpack lay inside, its contents strewn about the hide-skin floor. Milton fell to his knees and regaled the goods back inside. His Union Jack cap, a pack of thin-field Durex condoms, a copy of the Beano, the Pukka pie, and his Pukkanese bayonet, which he gripped in his hand. The chalice was nearby atop an admittedly well-furnished nightstand. Milton went to seize it, but another hand got there first. The hand of Fuckmouth, the vile and decrepit Oblin chieftain, who had been smart enough to flee the fire.
No, that's mine,
yelled Milton, brandishing the bayonet at Fuckmouth, who held the chalice upside down in his arthritic hands.
That's not for you. That belongs to me.
Fuckmouth paused for a moment, then, to Milton's surprise, spoke.
I know what this is, foolish mortal, for I was there at its creation.
Milton staggered back at the unlikely smooth tone of the Grey Goon's voice.
What?
Do you think me as simple as my clanfolk? I am far more than an ordinary Oblin. I have Krog's blessing. For thousands of years I have lived, only now in squalor with my associates. I provide them with the simple pleasures, biding my time until the almighty Krog makes his return.
Well, good thing that's not going to happen, you disgusting, filthy fiend! Now give me back the chalice! I don't care about your pathetic backstory! Milton lunged forwards and tackled the elderly Oblin, knocking him flat onto the ground. Milton wrestled with the grey gremlin. Give me back the chalice! Fuckmouth gargled, a white froth foaming at the edges of his mouth.
Never. It shall be returned to Krog, its rightful owner.
Then you leave me no choice. Milton raised the dagger up towards Fuckmouth's mask and brought it down into the hole in the mouth area. A fountain of grey blood spurted forth, showering the ceiling of the tent. Fuckmouth spasmed and writhed in pain. Always find your enemy's weak point. Learn that from Dead Space 3. Next time maybe don't have arrows pointing to it, eh? Don't know why those were there anyway. Milton pried the chalice from Fuckmouth's grasp and wiped it with his shirt. The bird swooped into the tent, announcing its customary finishing rhyme in a trill tone.
The Oblin chieftain called Fuckmouth finds his plans have gone south.
Milton spoke as the bird blasted Fuckmouth into infinity, condemning him eternally to the demon pen.
Yeah, that rhyme was a bit of a reach. Bird, I'm sorry to say it, but I'm gonna have to ask you to go into silent mode. You've been pretty annoying on this adventure so far, and I really just don't want to hear your voice.
The bird was forced to oblige and uttered no response, silently returning to Milton's shoulder. Milton exited the tent and gazed around at the decimated camp. Oblin corpses strewn in piles all around the smouldering trees and branches.
That was actually pretty easy. And look, the chalice is refilling.
Milton held the little glass aloft as the orange brew filled itself up to the top, whereupon he drank deep and long, the last of his burns healing quickly.
Oh, that feels great. Right, I'm ready to go back.
Milton stepped over the charred corpse and began to unsheath the Pukka pie that would allow his return to the monastery. He lifted the baked good to his mouth, but a sudden force knocked it from his hands.
What the fuck?
Exclaimed Milton, looking around frantically, expecting a remaining Oblin, but he saw nothing. He tiptoed cautiously to the edge of the camp, feeling the presence of something far more potent than any Oblin, even Fuckmouth. There, underneath the boughs of a near pine, stood a figure comprised totally of pitch-black shadow. Milton instantly recognized this figure as the dark shape he had witnessed earlier on his journey through the forest, and found himself frozen in place, unable to even talk. The shadowy figure moved forward silently, drifting effortlessly over the ground.
Milton Hamley Oliver,
spoke a deep voice, seemingly coming from directly inside Milton's head.
Your zeal is impressive, but your hubris is immeasurable.
Milton was literally petrified. He tried to lift his arm or open his mouth, but nothing worked.
I have watched you for some time now. You are not a cautious person. It has not been hard to track you down.
The featureless black being encircled Milton, and as he did so, a number of Oblin corpses began to twitch, themselves becoming blackened and overcome with shadow energy. The dark figure rose up into the air, becoming greatly embiggened and blotting out the sun with its intense mass.
I have been sent to put a stop to your meddling. So now, fight me.
A thunderclap sounded and the corpses of the Oblins reanimated suddenly, imbued with shadow aura. The original figure was nowhere to be seen, having been ostensibly transmitted into the Oblins. Milton found he could now move and slashed at them, warding them back.
Stay away! I don't know who you are, mysterious shadow person, but you're no match for me, Milton. Even if you can talk inside my head and make me freeze in time.
The black Oblins advanced.
Behold my powers. I have become all of these underlings simultaneously,
spoke the disembodied voice. Milton stabbed his bayonet into one of them to no avail. The otherworldly black substance simply moved around the blade.
You cannot vanquish me, champion of the chalice. You lack sufficient mastery of your own power.
What are you talking about?
Milton was cut short as a nearby Oblin lashed out with an augmented appendage, tripping him up and flooring him instantly.
Get up and face me. Show me your true power.
Milton struggled to get up.
Okay, just give me a second to catch my breath.
Milton panted with his hands on his knees. The primed Oblins stood vigilantly in their circle surrounding him, respecting his wishes. Milton inhaled and exhaled deeply a few more times.
Okay, I'm ready.
Milton paused for a second, then sprinted between two of the shadow Oblins and off into the trees beyond, stopping to quickly nab the Pukka pie that lay half-crushed on the ground. He shouted back at the shadowy congregation,
You shouldn't have let me catch my breath! Now you'll never catch me!
Milton grinned at his pun as he raced through the pines. He had surmised that this shadow creature was evidently too strong for him. Also, he couldn't really be bothered to duel with another creature, and desperately wanted to go to bed and play Minecraft more than anything.
Milton Hamley Oliver, you are a fool in hero's clothing. Not challenging me today has been your first mistake,
said the disembodied voice. Milton continued to run and dodge trees, which began to take on a shadowy nature as he passed them.
You'd like to think that, wouldn't you? Who are you, anyway? Albodescalia? Gordon Ramsay?
I am neither. I am the unknown. I am that which is unseen, lurking in the corner of the room, following behind you wherever you go. I am...
Gonna stop you there, pal. I've just seen something pretty interesting.
Milton veered to the right towards an arch formed of bowed trees, which led up towards a great hill. A golden light encapsulated the entire area. Evidently, this was the Pukka Sanctum, the legendary safe zone Hugh had been talking about. It was said to appear when it was most needed, which undeniably was now. Milton jogged through the arch, incredibly out of breath. He turned to see that the forest behind him was entirely cast in shadow, but everything past the arch of the sanctum was unaffected.
Ha! Can't get me here, can you?
Boasted Milton.
You are a coward. You will come to regret your actions,
spoke the voice, muffled through the enchanted barrier. Milton watched, hands on hips, as the shadow lifted from the forest and dispersed into the sky like black dust.
Yeah, that's it. Run away,
shouted Milton, turning and heading up the hill. There wasn't really much there, so Milton decided it was probably time to leave. He speedily devoured the Pukka pie that was mashed somewhat into his hand, making sure to eat all of it and lick his fingers too. Within seconds, the Pukkanese magic had taken effect, and Milton was whisked away back to the monastery. The council had concluded by the time Milton returned, and many of the chefs sat around a ceremonial bonfire out on the second layer of the monastery. Milton took a seat in the circle and divulged his encounter with the Oblins and the shadow being in great detail.
And he made them go all black and turn into him. Oh, I managed to distract him and escape, and thankfully he was too slow for me.
The Honourable Gennaro Contaldo, who had felt great sympathy for Milton and had provided him with a blanket and a mug of hot Italian cocoa drink, spoke up.
What the true nature of this being was we cannot say. We do know that the Pukka realm is no longer safe from evil. More measures must be taken to increase ceremony of the monastery.
Milton, I apologise for putting you in danger, and I thank you greatly for slaying the demon Fuckmouth. You're a fine asset to this order, and I hope you will consider joining once your trials have been completed, added Hugh Fearnley-Whittingstall. As for the shadow being, I shall consult ancient literatures until I gain more knowledge. This is evidently of a power greater than we've seen before. Whether it is Krogian or not, we cannot say. Ainsley Harriott, who sat next to Milton, patted him on the back.
You're a right good kid, and you truly don't deserve what happened to you. You should take a break. Feel free to kick back here at the monastery for a bit and chill out.
Milton sighed. Yeah, I kind of want to go home for a bit. Haven't been back in ages. He could use the Puckanarium gaming system, suggested Nigella Lawson. Milton's eyes lit up.
Whoa, no way! You have that here? Can I see what games you have on it?
Nigella smiled. Of course. We have all manner of cooking and food preparation-based games.
Do you have Minecraft?
Asked Milton hungrily, licking his lips. Nigella laughed.
No, but I'm sure we can figure something out.
A voice came from behind Milton.
Actually, Milton's gonna be coming with me.
Dad?
Milton turned to see the friendly face of Jamie Oliver, returned from his epic meal.
Hello, my son,
Jamie addressed his colleagues.
Hello, everyone. Sorry, but Milton can't stay here. We've got stuff to do back in reality. Thanks for looking after him, though, and, well, sorry I couldn't make it to that council meeting.
Gennaro smiled and nodded.
It's fine.
Milton got up and embraced his father.
I've missed you, Dad. I've been fighting Oblins and a shadow demon.
Wow, that sounds great. Say goodbye to the chefs now,
prompted Jamie. Milton ran around the circle and hugged each chef, excluding Gregg Wallace, whose manspread was too difficult to navigate. Milton finished up with Ainsley, who winked back at him.
I see you've put your familiar on silent. It's the best choice, trust me. You won't go back.
Milton grinned and waved one final goodbye, walking off into the perpetual sunset, holding Jamie's hand.
Sounds like you've had a great time,
said Jamie.
Oh yeah? I got you this.
Jamie unloaded something into Milton's hands, a dark substance wrapped poorly in a stained napkin.
No way! Poo cake! You saved me some!
Delighted Milton, instantly chowing down into the malleable black ball. Jamie led Milton through an archway at the edge of the monastery.
That's right, my boy. There's always enough to go around at the Oliver household. Right, so everything's sorted out now. Rodwell's pretty much back to normal, so I think we're okay to go back to killing some demons.
Milton groaned, poo covering his lips.
Oh, Dad, I don't want to go to any more dimensions or planets. I just want to go home and game.
Well, that's just the thing,
said Jamie, coming to a halt next to a closed door.
This door is a door specifically made for space transmutation. You don't need to hit your head on it, and it already knows where you want to go.
What? What does that mean?
The next demon, Milton, is far closer to home than you might think.
Milton moaned again.
I need a break, Dad. I don't want to fight demons. I just want to go home and play Minecraft.
Jamie smiled.
Well then, you're in luck.
Milton looked up, perplexed.
What do you mean?
Go through with me and see,
responded Jamie. Sorry. You can edit those ones out.